At 8:53, here's a check of some of the morning's top stories. Governor Brian Kemp is calling on President Joe Biden to share more information about the man accused of killing Augusta University nursing student Laken Riley. Jose Ibarra was arrested for murder Friday, a day after Riley was found dead on UGA's campus near intramural fields. The suspect is from Venezuela and is not a U.S. citizen. Governor Kemp is demanding answers about his immigration status and demanding more information about this man here, the suspect's older brother, who was arrested Friday for having a fake green card. Atlanta News First has learned that this brother, Diego Ibarra, was hired by UGA as a dishwasher in Bolton Dining Hall, but presented a fake green card and was never paid because he didn't provide more documentation needed. In his letter to the president, Kemp writes about the southern border, saying in part, while the dangers of this crisis have never been theoretical, this week our state witnessed a devastating tragedy.